Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Have you ever felt that deep longing for transformation in your relationship? That sense that despite speaking each other's love languages, something profound remains just out of reach? What most couples never realize, even as they drift apart, is these four powerful patterns, the king, warrior, magician, and lover, are the missing elements that turn moments of connection into lifelong bonds. For example, when the lover archetype is balanced, you experience deep emotional intimacy and passion, but in its shadow form, you might become clingy and possessive or emotionally detached and avoidant. As Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In this video, we will see how these Jungian archetypes manifest in your relationship, which one you're unconsciously suppressing, and how they actually determine which love languages resonate most deeply with you. You'll discover transformative practices that have helped couples on the brink of separation rediscover the magic they thought was lost forever. Pay close attention to all four archetypes. The one that triggers you most might be the key to your relationship breakthrough. Now, you might be thinking, archetypes? Isn't that just abstract psychology? That's a fair question. While Jung's concepts emerged from his clinical work and study of world mythologies, what makes them valuable is not their theoretical origin, but their practical effectiveness. Even if you view these patterns as useful metaphors rather than universal truths, they provide a powerful language for understanding relationship dynamics. Why love languages are not enough. Think about it. How many times have you tried to speak your partner's love language only to feel like something essential is still missing? You perform acts of service, offer words of affirmation, spend quality time together, yet beneath the surface, a disconnection persists. This is because love languages, while valuable, only address the surface expressions of love. They tell you how to communicate love, but not why certain expressions resonate more deeply with you or your partner. They don't explain the unconscious patterns driving your relationship dynamics. What if I told you that beneath these 5 love languages lie 4 archetypal energies that have shaped human relationships since the beginning of time? Energies so fundamental to our psyche that they appear in myths, stories, and dreams across every culture throughout history? These archetypes, the king, warrior, magician, and lover, represent the complete spectrum of human relational energy. When balanced, they create relationships of extraordinary depth and resilience. When imbalanced, they manifest as the very patterns that tear couples apart. And here's what's truly fascinating. The love language that resonates most with you is directly connected to which archetypes are dominant or suppressed in your psyche. Understanding this connection can transform not just how you express love, but how you experience it at the deepest level. This framework will guide our exploration. Each archetype has mature expressions that create connection and shadow expressions that create conflict. Your dominant archetypes influence which love languages resonate most with you. Keep this map in mind as we explore each archetype in depth. Recent research in relationship psychology supports this deeper approach. A 2019 study, published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, found that couples who developed a shared meaning system, similar to what these archetypes provide, reported significantly higher relationship satisfaction and resilience during conflicts. The first archetypal pattern we'll explore is the king energy, the sovereign force within each of us that creates order, establishes boundaries, and provides blessing. In its mature form, this energy manifests as the ability to create structure and stability in your relationship. It's the part of you that can hold space for your partner, that can see their highest potential, and that can establish healthy boundaries that protect your connection. Think about a moment when your partner made you feel truly seen and valued, when they recognized your worth without you having to prove anything. That's the king energy in action. But like all archetypes, the king has shadow expressions. When this energy becomes imbalanced, it manifests either as the tyrant or the abdicator. The tyrant attempts to control everything in the relationship. This is the partner who must have things their way, who criticizes constantly, who makes unilateral decisions without consideration for the other's needs or desires. The abdicator, on the other hand, refuses to step into their power. This is the partner who avoids making decisions, who won't set boundaries, who abandons their responsibility to help create structure in the relationship. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If your primary love language is words of affirmation or acts of service, you may be particularly attuned to the king energy. You value recognition, order, and the blessing that comes from a partner who sees and honors your worth. Ask yourself, how is the king energy showing up in your relationship? Are you playing the role of the tyrant, trying to control outcomes? Are you abdicating your power, refusing to establish necessary boundaries? Or are you embodying the mature sovereign, creating a container where both you and your partner can thrive? The second archetypal pattern is the warrior, the energy of protection, discipline, and loyal action. In its mature form, the warrior manifests as the courage to stand up for your relationship, the discipline to remain committed even through challenges, and the ability to take decisive action when necessary. Think about a time when you or your partner defended your relationship against external threats, whether those threats were other people, work demands, or distractions that could have pulled you apart. That's the warrior energy at work. But the warrior, too, has its shadow expressions, the sadist and the masochist. The sadist uses aggression and force to dominate. This is the partner who becomes verbally or physically abusive, who uses anger to control, who fights not to protect but to wound. The masochist, conversely, becomes the doormat. This is the partner who allows themselves to be mistreated, who sacrifices their own needs entirely, who confuses self-abandonment with love. If your primary love language is acts of service or physical touch, you may be particularly resonant with warrior energy. You value action, protection, and the physical demonstration of commitment. Now, reflect on your own relationship. How is the warrior energy manifesting? Are you fighting too much, becoming aggressive when you feel threatened? Are you refusing to stand up for yourself or the relationship? Or are you channeling this energy constructively, taking action to protect and nurture what matters most? The third archetypal pattern is the magician, the energy of transformation, insight, and conscious awareness. In its mature form, the magician brings perspective to your relationship. It's the part of you that can step back from emotional reactivity, that can see patterns and transform them, that can create meaning from experience. Think about those moments of deep conversation with your partner when you gained new insights about yourself or your relationship. That's the magician energy at work. The shadow expressions of the magician are the manipulator and the denying innocent. The manipulator uses knowledge to control rather than to heal. This is the partner who plays mind games, who withholds information, who uses emotional intelligence as a weapon rather than a tool for growth. The denying innocent refuses to see reality. This is the partner who remains willfully ignorant, who avoids difficult conversations, who pretends problems don't exist even as the relationship deteriorates around them. If your primary love languages are words of affirmation or quality time, you may be particularly attuned to magician energy. You value insight, understanding, and the transformation that comes through deep connection. Consider how the magician energy is showing up in your relationship. Are you using your emotional intelligence to manipulate your partner? Are you avoiding awareness of problems that need addressing? Or are you embodying the mature magician, bringing consciousness and transformation to your connection? The fourth and final archetypal pattern is the lover, the energy of passion, presence, and deep connection. In its mature form, the lover brings aliveness to your relationship. It's the part of you that can be fully present, that can experience joy and pleasure, that can connect deeply with your partner on all levels, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Think about those moments of profound intimacy with your partner when time seemed to stop and you felt completely connected. That's the lover energy at work. The shadow expressions of the lover are the addicted lover and the impotent lover. The addicted lover becomes obsessive and possessive. This is the partner who can't maintain healthy boundaries, who becomes jealous and controlling, who confuses intensity with intimacy. The impotent lover, on the other hand, disconnects from feeling. This is the partner who becomes emotionally unavailable, who avoids vulnerability, who maintains distance even in moments that call for closeness. If your primary love languages are physical touch or receiving gifts, you may be particularly resonant with lover energy. You value sensuality, presence, and the tangible expressions of connection. Reflect on how the lover energy is manifesting in your relationship. Are you becoming possessive or clingy when you feel insecure? Are you emotionally detaching when intimacy feels threatening? Or are you embodying the mature lover, bringing passion and presence to your connection? So far, we've explored the 4 archetypal patterns: the king who creates order and blessing, the warrior who protects and takes action, the magician who brings awareness and transformation, and the lover who embodies passion and presence. Now let's see how these energies work together to create relationship wholeness. Now that we've explored each archetype individually, let's talk about how they work together to create a complete relationship. Because here's the truth: we need all 4 energies to be present and balanced for a relationship to thrive. Think of these archetypes as the 4 pillars of a temple. If one is missing or weakened, the entire structure becomes unstable. This is why so many relationships struggle. They're operating with archetypal imbalances. For example, a relationship might have strong warrior energy, lots of passion and protection, but weak magician energy, little insight or perspective. This creates a dynamic where partners fight for each other but cannot step back to understand the patterns driving their conflicts. Or perhaps a relationship has strong king energy, clear boundaries and structure, but weak lover energy, little spontaneity or emotional connection. This creates a partnership that functions efficiently but lacks heart and passion. What makes this framework so powerful is that it explains why simply trying to speak each other's love languages sometimes is not enough. If your partner's words of affirmation don't feel authentic because they're coming from a place of manipulation, shadow magician, rather than genuine blessing, mature king, they will not have the desired impact. The key is to identify which archetypes are dominant in your relationship, which are suppressed, and which are expressing through their shadow forms. Once you understand this, you can begin the work of integration. If you're in a new relationship, pay special attention to which archetypes initially attract you to your partner. Often we're drawn to qualities we lack ourselves. If you're in a long-term relationship, notice how your archetypal patterns have evolved over time, perhaps in response to life transitions like career changes, parenthood, or health challenges. Of course, human relationships are incredibly complex, and no single framework captures everything. These archetypes aren't rigid categories, but fluid energies that manifest uniquely in each person. The value is not in labeling yourself or your partner, but in recognizing patterns and creating more conscious choices about how you show up in your relationship. Let's see how these archetypes play out in everyday relationship situations. Consider a typical scenario. You and your partner are discussing future plans, perhaps where to live or how to manage finances. In this conversation, all 4 archetypes have essential roles to play. The king energy brings vision and structure. Here's what I believe would serve our highest good. The warrior energy brings commitment and boundaries. I'll stand firm for what matters most to us. The magician energy brings perspective and insight. Let me understand the patterns at work here. And the lover energy brings connection and presence. Let's stay emotionally connected even as we work through differences. But what happens when these energies are imbalanced? If the king energy is missing, the conversation lacks direction. If the warrior is absent, boundaries get violated. Without the magician, there's no perspective. And without the lover, the discussion becomes cold and disconnected. Think about your most recent disagreement with your partner. Which archetypal energies were present? Which were missing? Perhaps you brought plenty of warrior energy, fighting for your position, but lacked the magician's ability to see your partner's perspective. Or maybe you brought the lover's emotional connection, but lacked the king's ability to establish clear boundaries. This framework gives you a new language for understanding relationship dynamics. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," you might recognize, "I need more magician energy in our conversations." Instead of accusing your partner of being controlling, you might see that their king energy has slipped into the tyrant shadow. Let's go deeper into how these archetypes connect with the 5 love languages. This connection explains why simply speaking your partner's love language sometimes falls flat. Words of affirmation often express king energy, the power to bless through recognition. But these words only resonate when they come from an authentic place of seeing the other's worth, not from manipulation or obligation. Acts of service frequently channel warrior energy, taking action to support and protect. But these acts feel meaningful only when they come from loyal commitment, not from self-sacrifice or aggression. Quality time typically embodies magician energy, creating space for insight and transformation. This time feels valuable only when there's real presence and awareness, not when it's spent in denial or calculation. Physical touch often expresses lover energy, creating connection through embodied presence. But this touch only nurtures when it comes from genuine desire for connection, not from possessiveness or emotional detachment. And receiving gifts can express any of these archetypes, depending on the intention behind the gift. A gift might represent the king's blessing, the warrior's protection, the magician's insight, or the lover's passion. This explains why the same expression of love can feel completely different depending on the energy behind it. When your partner brings you coffee in the morning, acts of service, it feels nourishing if it comes from the mature warrior's loyal care. But if it comes from the masochist shadow, self-sacrifice seeking approval, it can actually create distance rather than connection. Understanding this connection helps you express love in ways that truly resonate. It's not just about what you do, but the archetypal energy you embody while doing it. Some of the deepest wounds in relationships occur when one partner's shadow expression triggers the other's. This creates painful cycles that can persist for years unless we bring them into consciousness. For example, when one partner's tyrant shadow, controlling king, activates the other's masochist shadow, self-sacrificing warrior, a domination-submission dynamic emerges. The more one partner controls, the more the other submits, reinforcing the pattern. Or when one partner's manipulator shadow, calculating magician, triggers the other's impotent lover shadow, emotionally detached lover, a cycle of game playing and withdrawal develops. The more one partner manipulates, the more the other detaches, creating a spiral of disconnection. Breaking these cycles requires both awareness and courage. First, you must recognize your own shadow expressions and take responsibility for them. Then you must consciously choose to embody the mature version of that archetype instead. For instance, if you notice yourself slipping into the tyrant shadow, becoming controlling or critical, you can pause and ask, how would the mature king respond in this situation? How can I create structure without domination? What's remarkable is that when one partner shifts from shadow to mature expression, it creates space for the other to do the same. When the tyrant transforms into the sovereign king, the masochist can evolve into the loyal warrior. When the manipulator becomes the wise magician, the impotent lover can blossom into the passionate present lover. This is how relationships heal, not through techniques or strategies, but through conscious embodiment of these archetypal energies. Neuroscience research on relationship patterns supports this understanding. Dr. Helen Fisher's brain imaging studies show that different neural systems activate during various relationship stages and challenges. When we consciously shift from shadow to mature archetypal expressions, we're actually creating new neural pathways that support healthier relationship dynamics. Let me share a brief example of how this framework transformed a real relationship. Sarah and Michael were in the verge of divorce after 12 years of marriage. They had tried everything: communication workshops, date nights, even speaking each other's love languages, but something fundamental was missing. Through deep work together, they discovered that Michael was strongly identified with the warrior archetype. He was protective, action-oriented, and disciplined, but under stress, he would slip into the sadist shadow, becoming aggressive and controlling. Sarah, on the other hand, was naturally aligned with the magician archetype. She was insightful, transformative, and aware. But under stress, she would become the denying innocent. Avoiding conflict and pretending problems did not exist. Their pattern was clear. When challenges arose, Michael would become aggressive, trying to fix things through force. Sarah would then withdraw into denial, refusing to engage. This created a cycle where neither felt seen or understood. By recognizing these patterns, they could finally address the root cause rather than just the symptoms. Michael began developing his magician energy, learning to step back and gain perspective before taking action. Sarah cultivated her warrior energy, finding the courage to face conflicts directly rather than avoiding them. Within months, their relationship transformed, not because they were doing more for each other, but because they were being different with each other. They were bringing the full spectrum of archetypal energies into their connection. What makes this framework so powerful is that it reveals relationships as evolutionary journeys rather than static arrangements. Each relationship challenge becomes an opportunity to develop aspects of yourself that remain unconscious or underdeveloped. Think about it. We're often attracted to partners who embody qualities we lack. The spontaneous, passionate person falls for the structured, stable one. The analytical thinker is drawn to the emotional feeler. This is not coincidence. It's the psyche's way of seeking wholeness. Your partner's strengths reveal your growth edges. Their challenges mirror your own shadow. This is why relationships can be both profoundly fulfilling and intensely triggering. They're designed to help us evolve. When you view your relationship through this lens, everything changes. Conflicts are not just problems to solve. They're invitations to develop parts of yourself that have remained dormant. Your partner's triggering behaviors are not just annoyances. They're mirrors reflecting aspects of your own psyche that need integration. This doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior. Rather, it means recognizing that even difficult relationships offer opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Ask yourself, what is my relationship trying to teach me? Which archetypal energies am I being called to develop? What parts of myself am I projecting onto my partner rather than owning and integrating? The answers to these questions can transform not just your relationship, but your entire life. Because as Jung taught us, individuation, the process of becoming whole, often happens through our most intimate connections. This archetypal framework complements attachment theory, one of the most well-researched areas of relationship psychology. For example, anxious attachment often manifests through the addicted lover or masochist shadows, while avoidant attachment frequently appears as the impotent lover or abdicator shadows. By healing these archetypal expressions, we can actually shift our attachment patterns toward greater security. Let's address something crucial: why these archetypal imbalances are so common in modern relationships. Understanding this context helps us recognize that our struggles are not just personal, they're part of a larger cultural pattern. Our society tends to value certain archetypal energies while dismissing others. We celebrate the warrior's action and the magician's intelligence, but often neglect the king's wisdom and the lover's depth of feeling. Think about the messages we receive about relationships. We're told to be independent, warrior, but not too controlling, shadow king. We're encouraged to communicate effectively, magician, but not to be too emotional, shadow lover. These contradictory expectations create confusion about how to show up authentically in our connections. Additionally, many of us didn't have models of balanced archetypal expression in our families of origin. Perhaps we had a father who embodied the tyrant shadow of the king, or a mother stuck in the denying innocent shadow of the magician. Without conscious awareness, we tend to either repeat these patterns or swing to their opposite extremes. This explains why even couples with the best intentions struggle. They're not just navigating their personal dynamics, they're working against powerful cultural and familial conditioning. But here's the hopeful truth. Awareness creates choice. Once you understand these archetypal patterns, you can begin to consciously cultivate the energies that have been suppressed, both individually and as a culture. This is not just personal healing, it is cultural transformation. It's important to note that different cultures may value certain archetypal expressions differently. In some collectivist cultures, the king's focus on order and structure might be highly valued, while individualistic cultures might emphasize the warrior's independence. There's no single right balance. What matters is finding the integration that honors both your cultural context and your authentic needs. Let me offer a practical exercise that you can do either alone or with your partner to begin integrating these archetypes into your relationship. First, create a sacred space, a time and place where you won't be interrupted. Next, reflect on each archetype and how it manifests in your relationship. You might want to journal about these questions or discuss them together. For the king, how do we create structure and vision in our relationship? When do I slip into control or abdication? What would mature sovereign energy look like for us? For the warrior, how do we protect and stand up for our relationship? When do I become aggressive or self-sacrificing? What would loyal, disciplined action look like for us? For the magician, how do we bring awareness and transformation to our relationship? When do I manipulate or deny reality? What would wise perspective look like for us? For the lover, how do we cultivate passion and presence in our relationship? When do I become possessive or detached? What would deep connection look like for us? After reflecting on each archetype, identify one specific way you can embody its mature expression this week. Perhaps you'll practice setting a loving boundary, mature warrior, or create a meaningful ritual for your relationship, mature king. The power of this exercise lies in its simplicity. By bringing conscious awareness to these archetypal patterns, you begin the process of integration. And as Jung taught us, integration is the path to wholeness. There's a profound spiritual dimension to this work. When we integrate these 4 archetypal energies, we experience wholeness that transcends the individual ego. The mature king connects us to purpose, the warrior to commitment, the magician to wisdom, and the lover to union with life itself. This integration creates what some traditions call sacred marriage, the union of complementary energies within ourselves and our relationships. It's the alchemical process that transforms not just how we relate to others, but how we experience our place in the world. Many spiritual traditions recognize these patterns in different forms, from Hindu deities to indigenous wisdom of the 4 directions. When we work with these archetypes consciously, we participate in humanity's timeless journey toward wholeness. This does not mean relationships become perfect. Rather, it means that even difficulties become meaningful, opportunities for growth and transformation. The relationship itself becomes a spiritual practice. From a scientific perspective, these archetypal patterns might be understood as evolved psychological adaptations that helped our ancestors navigate social bonds. The king archetype relates to status and resource allocation, the warrior to protection and boundary maintenance, the magician to problem-solving and meaning-making, and the lover to attachment and reproduction. Whether you view them through a spiritual or evolutionary lens, their impact on relationships remains powerful. As we bring all these threads together, I want to offer a vision of what's possible when these archetypal energies are integrated in a relationship. Imagine a relationship where both partners embody the mature king, creating structure that serves growth, offering blessing that acknowledges the other's inherent worth, establishing boundaries that protect the sacred space between you. Imagine both partners expressing the mature warrior, standing firm in commitment, taking action that serves the relationship, protecting what matters most without aggression or self-sacrifice. Imagine both partners channeling the mature magician, bringing awareness to patterns, transforming challenges into opportunities, using insight to heal rather than to control. And imagine both partners embodying the mature lover, being fully present with each other, experiencing the depth of connection that's possible when we open ourselves completely, bringing passion and play into everyday moments. This is not a fantasy. It's what becomes possible when we commit to the journey of archetypal integration. Not perfection, but a dynamic balance that allows both partners to continue growing, healing, and discovering themselves through the relationship. The 5 love languages become exponentially more powerful when expressed through these integrated archetypal energies. Words of affirmation carry the blessing of the king. Acts of service embody the loyal action of the warrior. Quality time creates space for the magician's transformation. Physical touch expresses the lover's deep connection. And gifts become symbols of all these energies combined. We've journeyed through the 4 archetypal patterns that transform relationships: the king, warrior, magician, and lover. We've explored how they connect with love languages, how they manifest in shadow and mature expressions, and how integrating them can heal relationship wounds. But knowledge alone doesn't transform relationships. It's the application of this wisdom in daily life that creates change. So I invite you to take one insight from this video, just one, and put it into practice this week. Perhaps you'll pay attention to which archetype you naturally embody and which you tend to suppress. Maybe you'll notice when you slip into shadow expressions and practice shifting to mature ones. Or you might have a conversation with your partner about these patterns and how they show up in your relationship. Whatever you choose, remember that this is a journey, not a destination. Each day brings new opportunities to embody these energies more consciously, to recognize when you've slipped into shadow and to choose again. You might be wondering, what if my partner isn't interested in this archetypal work? Remember that relationships are systems. When one part changes, the whole system shifts. By developing your own archetypal awareness and integration, you'll naturally create new possibilities in your relationship. Your partner may become curious about the positive changes they see in you, or the relationship dynamics may shift even without their conscious participation. As Jung wrote, "The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." May your relationships be containers for this transformation, not just changing how you love others, but revealing the fullness of who you are. I'd love to hear which of these archetypes resonates most strongly with you, or which insight from this video you found most valuable. Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the next video, we'll explore how these archetypal patterns connect with attachment theory, showing how early childhood experiences shape which archetypes we naturally embody and which we struggle to access. If you found this valuable, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thank you for joining me on this journey beyond the 5 love languages into the archetypal patterns that transform relationships. Until next time, remember that the path to extraordinary love begins with self-knowledge. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. May your relationships be your greatest teachers, your deepest healers, and your path to becoming who you truly are.